Hello and welcome to another edition of Chill with Kaiju Kim. I'm Kaiju Kim. Hope you're all doing well on this lovely afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you. You never know when streaming services like Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Netflix, or even Tubi will remove films and TV shows from their collection before you've even had a chance to watch them all the way through. So, as far as I'm concerned, physical media is the way to go. And while we're still waiting for a certain kaiju and tokusatsu series to be available on DVD or Blu ray, we do have plenty of options available here in the US that we can get our hands on. And returning to the show to tell us all about those options is the host of Kaiju Conversation, Mr. Elijah Thomas.
Hello, it's good to be back.
Hello. Thanks for coming back onto the show, and thank you for picking this wonderful topic that we're going to talk about tonight.
Not a problem. I love physical media, so it's kind of like second nature to me. And we didn't really talk about it too deep, but I have a huge physical media collection. So I'm happy we can talk about it. I'm happy we can talk about my favorite genre as well, tokusatsu. So it's gonna be great.
This is going to be a good show. We have a good show coming up for you tonight, guys. Before we get rolling, though, let's see who we have in the chat tonight. We got Raf and Shema. Hello, hello. Physical media forever. Woohoo! It just says Facebook user. I don't know. Someone on Facebook is watching. Hello, hello from StreamYard and YouTube. And Kasaibo F29. Hello, hello. Do you have a record player? I don't, but my husband does. Do you have a record player?
I'm pretty sure I do. I've got a lot. I've got like a VCD player, VHS player, cassette player, DVD, Blu-ray. I don't have 4K. Somewhere I think I got a record player. Somewhere.
All right, somewhere. All right, cool. So let's jump right into our discussion for tonight. So, you agree that physical media is the way to go, yeah?
Yeah. So I actually, I was recording my podcast the other night, Kaiju Conversation, and we're doing this thing where we do little mini-sodes before where my co-host and I, Rex, talk about whatever. Because we could talk about whatever. That's why we do the podcast together. And we were talking about Legendary picking Sony over like Netflix and whatnot. And Netflix is streaming stuff. And a thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about streaming right now, especially, is it is a horrible industry to get into. You think streaming is like the way to go, like it's the new big thing. But like Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, they're all losing money. They're not making money off their products because they're spending so much and not getting enough back. And I saw a post on Twitter the other day, and it was a joke, but he was right. He was like, "Hey, Bob Iger, instead of complaining that Disney Plus isn't making money, why don't you put it on Blu-ray and then make more money?" So it goes back to the whole idea. I think that physical media is the way to go. Like it's basically pure profit. Like you order a bulk amount of it, you get it, you sell it. If it doesn't sell the best, you can put it on sale, still make money, and eventually that'll run out and you don't lose money.
Yeah, exactly. So, despite the fact that, physical media makes money, companies like Toho and Subaraya, and especially Toei, are like so hesitant to release their titles internationally despite fan demand. Like, do you have any thoughts on to why that is?
So there's a few reasons. So the first one is the fear of backwards importation. So as an example, I don't want to move it. I don't want everything falling. The yokai monster movies from Daiei all have 4K restorations. If they give Arrow Video all three of those, and they release them on physical, then the Japanese audience is likely to buy the Arrow video release, turn off the subtitles, and they've got their movie in 4K. Like, it's perfect. And in Japan, the price of a Blu-ray is way higher than in America or the UK. So a lot of it is the fear of losing that money, losing their products, because Daiei releases it, Toho releases it, and they want to make money that way. A lot of this is just money. Unfortunately, that's what it is. The other reasons are, to my understanding, like the case of Godzilla versus Megalon. The film was acquired by Cinema Shares back in the 70s, and somewhere the copyright idea of it being a protected film was lost. And then every company in the United States started putting it out on VHS. Eventually, you had some unofficial DVDs released, airings on TV and whatnot. And Toho lost millions on that. Like, Toho, the IP of Godzilla definitely lost some value with that overuse of Godzilla versus Megalon in the States. So it's also just to protect that IP from being taken advantage of, because they want to keep the IP safe and important and valuable. So those are the two reasons that I've had the understanding of why they're so restrictive, is working with their own domestic stuff and then ensuring that they don't get taken advantage of. I mean, Toei did that with Power Rangers, and now they charge an arm and a leg for literally everything because they think everything is Power Rangers levels profitable, and they want to make that money that they kind of lost when making the deal with Saban.
Yeah. In other words, it's all about monies.
Unfortunately, that's the name of the game and in the business in the film industry and whatnot, is what works financially, what doesn't work.
Indeed, indeed. Real quick, just want to say hello to Travis from Kaiju Weekly. Hello, hello, good sir. Yay, always good to see my friends in the chat. All right, so we do have some tokusatsu and kaiju media available to us, and you were nice enough to put together this fantastic slideshow talking about it. So
Yes,
I guess
yes.
I'll let you take the wheel for a little bit.
Yeah, so I wanted to highlight some overlooked tokusatsu in the United States, because the thing about it is, uh, you've got the Criterion Godzilla stuff, the Sony Godzilla stuff, the Arrow Video Gamera stuff, Daimajin, um, Shout Factory Sentai, Power Rangers, all this good stuff. But what people don't know is there's other Japanese special effects heavy films that have been released in the States that are quite good. And to be honest, some of them are the best in the genre, if I do say so myself. So for this, I tried to keep it a little less kaiju and a little more just tokusatsu, because there is so much good stuff that you can find that's available for not an arm and a leg, that are just as good as films like Shin Godzilla or Godzilla 54, or if you insert Godzilla title here, just as good as that. So for this, I wanted to make sure we had some classifications. So what is tokusatsu? If you're watching this, you probably know, but if you don't know, tokusatsu is a Japanese style of filmmaking utilizing a heavy usage of special effects, which spans multiple genres, most prolifically Japanese horror, fantasy, and science fiction.
Michael Hamilton, aren't you a little too young to be here, Elijah?
Michael,
this is a family-friendly show, so it's perfect for Elijah.
Exactly. I don't know what you're talking about, Michael.
What do you mean? Trying to get himself canceled.
As for what I count as tokusatsu, there is a discussion to be had, and maybe this might be a great idea for a future stream. Have a few of us in here. What counts as tokusatsu? For me, I like to keep it simple, because you could argue the Guyver, Pacific Rim, Gorgo, The Host. You name it, you could argue it. For my definition, I put it as any Japanese made genre film or television series that uses a large amount of special effects within the project. CGI does count, even though there's also an argument to be there. Is it practical or is it computer? The definition is very not well defined in the West, but this is what I do just to keep it simple and easy.
Indeed.
So, as for the physical media itself, what's to be considered? Any tokusatsu movie that's been released officially on a digital physical format. I say digital because I'm not going to include VHS tapes or anything like that, just because if we go that route, it gets even more obscure and even harder to find. And I wanted to really highlight stuff that's kind of easier to get your hands on, because I'd love for people to watch this stuff because it is pretty good. Specifically in region 1 or region A, that's the region of the United States. When you see on the back of a DVD the little globe and it says 1 or all or A, that means it can be played in the United States, not another region. So there's that. And then how can you find these titles? In the slideshow, I tell you what format, whether it's 4K, Blu-ray, or DVD, and then I'll just tell you guys probably the best place to find it because it is hard to find some of this stuff. But I tried to keep it somewhat uh, easy to locate.
No VHS.
Yeah, unfortunately, no
Oh,
VHS.
darn. What about Laserdisc? Asked Laura Fitkin. Hello, Laura.
So Laserdisc is another one, but people don't really use Laserdiscs, and it's harder to get those. So I didn't include those, but that is another great area. VHSs and Laserdiscs are great areas for tokusatsu, for the obscure stuff, and it just warms my heart to see stuff like that.
Awesome, awesome. All right, let's move to the next slide.
So the first one I wanted to highlight, I wanted to really try to go from probably known to maybe unknown. I will always find a chance to highlight the Dai Yokai series, um, especially the first one, 100 Monsters from 1968. It's a great period piece. It's very moody, very atmospheric. If you love Japanese horror from the time, it's really good. The effects are great. They're not like mind-blowing, but looking at all the yokai, I love it. I was really happy when Arrow re-released this to Blu-ray, because these are honestly some of Daiei's best genre films. uh I think they're better than the Gamera films being produced at the time. So your 1968, 1969, that'd be Guiron and Virus, I believe. Um, I enjoy them. They're so interesting to watch. And if you get the Arrow set, there's also a great documentary. It's about 45 minutes that talks about yokai, and it's so informative and really interesting. Um, for somebody that doesn't know a lot about yokai, it kind of gives you the entryway into the wide world of not just kaiju but yokai, because yokai is its own thing. And there's even stuff that I don't have on this slideshow that are yokai that I'd love to talk about, maybe one day. um as you can see, it's available on DVD from AD Vision. However, it's out of print, and that's really expensive if you want to go that route. I don't recommend it. Everything the AD Vision released uh, is on the Arrow set, which is available. It's a little expensive. It's Blu-ray. It's got all 3 Yokai trilogy films plus the Great Yokai War. I actually have the limited edition box set right here. I think that's out of print now, so you can only get the standard edition, which all it does is it takes out the booklet and the little poster you get. So you still get all of the goodies on the discs, which is really great.
Travis says, my favorite yokai is the tanuki with the large fun bags.
The Tanukis are great. I don't think they're included in any of the original yokai films. I know they are in Takashi Miike's duology of the Great Yokai War. Um, but they're little like raccoon dogs um, that have large fun bags that they can use for basically anything they need. And it's a great yokai are so interesting. The one on the screen here is the umbrella yokai. It's an umbrella that was abandoned that a yokai inhabited, and it's traditionally more of a mischievous yokai. It looks stupid, but I love it because to me it's beautiful. And I love stuff like that. The yokai are honestly better than they're on par with like cryptozoology, but they're weirder, and to me that just makes it awesome.
So I'm not well versed on yokai. Are they like just basically weird live action Pokemon?
So yokai, if we're going by the documentary, anything can be a yokai. Kim Newman, a author and a film scholar in horror, stated that even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are yokai. They're based off of Kappa. Kappa are yokai. Um, if you've seen Death Kappa, that's the idea, except they're not giant. They're like human sized. Um, yokai are basically anything abnormal. So there's also an anime called Yokai Watch, which explores the world of yokai. Um, you have your traditional ones like the long necked woman, the umbrella monster, uh, the kappa. There's a ton. Those are just the ones that I know off the top of my head. Um, but the list is just never ending. Even Pokemon, people consider Pokemon yokai. Um, the definition of yokai is very loose, much like tokusatsu. And I see Travis just posted in the chat here. It's like if Pokemon were real and people believed they really existed. It's part of Japanese mythology. Uh, yeah, except based off that documentary can also be things that are fake. A lot of yokai were actually lost when America occupied Japan, and they kind of, well, America and South Korea, when both of them occupied Japan, they kind of destroyed the legacy, the history of stuff like Japanese folklore, which included a ton of yokai. Um, and then in the 60s, it started to become popular again after some publications became relevant again. I'm trying to remember the author's name who did them. They were manga. He had a cameo in the Great Yokai War, but because of his manga, yokai became popular again, and then they kind of died off. And then when like the late 2000s, early 2010s, yokai became popular again with stuff like Yokai Watch and whatnot. Have you ever heard of the slit mouth woman
I
by
have
any
not.
chance?
No.
So that is considered yokai, apparently. What it is it's a urban legend that there's this lady whose mouth is like the Joker from Dark Knight. Um, she walks around with a mask on her face, and she'll ask you, "Am I pretty?" If you say no, she kills you. If you say yes, she takes off her mask and says, "Am I still pretty?" If you lie and say yes, she kills you. If you say no, she kills you.
So it's just a
If
lose lose situation with this woman.
yeah, it's Japanese urban legends, so you're screwed either way.
Oh dear. Okay. All right. So let's move on to something to the next slide here.
So here's a bonus: Spook Warfare. It's the second of the yokai trilogy. It's also available. I can't speak.
Words are hard.
They are. It's also available on DVD from AD Vision. However, it's out of print, and it, like I said, it's on the box set here with 100 monsters, and then the third film is Along with Ghosts, and then you've got the Great Yokai War. So
Awesome. All right. Next.
So the next one, if anybody knows me, they know that I had to put this in because I cannot stand not talking about this movie. Fair warning, do not watch this if you are under the age of 16. So I'm just going to say that now.
So then you shouldn't watch it then.
Wow. Okay.
The opportunity was there. I had to take it. I'm sorry. Continue.
Tetsuo the Iron Man, directed by Shinya Tsukamoto, is probably the weirdest movie in my collection. It's hard to describe it. It is the fever dream of somebody who had no budget and decided to create a cross between a David Lynch film and a David Cronenberg film. It's shot in 16 millimeter. It's in 4.3 aspect ratio, black and white. It feels very much like a Ultra Q episode, but adult. Very adult. But I love it. It's great. It's really weird, but it's probably one of the best tokusatsu films I've watched and I own. It basically follows this guy. The actor is Tomaruo Takaguchi. I believe I said his name correctly. Who he and his girlfriend accidentally hit this guy, and they get rid of the body, and then they try to live their life, and then the body comes back. He's a bit of a weirdo. He put an iron rod into his leg, and somehow he's turning into metal. So after that, Takaguchi notices like a pimple on his face. He pops it. It's really bloody. And then metal is popping out of him. And then he has to, he tries to get rid of it. He gets chased by the guy who he hit, and he just turns into this Iron Man. That's the best way I can describe this. Like that's the plot, I think.
You think.
The
my sentiments exactly, Kasaibo. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's not for the faint of heart. I'll say that. It's got some awesome stuff. It's got really good stop motion, really interesting cinematography, something that I want to take and use in my films a little bit. The soundtrack is phenomenal. It's amazing. It's by, I think it's Chu Ishikawa, was the film composer. He would later go on to more Tsukamoto films, but he also did Kashimiike's Dead or Alive trilogy. He's very, he likes to use a lot of like metal, like spoons, and like hit them together and make really cool sounds, backed by synth. And Tetsuo the Iron Man is riddled with amazing music. It's available on DVD from Fox Lorebore or Tartan Video. If anybody remembers Tartan Video, they did a lot of extreme Japanese horror, like Carved, which was a movie about the slit mouth woman. They did Tetsuo. They did Takashi Shimizu's Merbito, which starred Shinya Tsukamoto in the lead role. So they've done quite a bit. But Arrow Video also released this in Solid Metal Nightmares, the films of Shinya Tsukamoto. It's a box set. This one I'll grab because I'm not going to knock anything down, I hope. It's great. It comes with Tetsuo 2.
Yeah, hold that up again.
Yeah. So this is the box set. You've got that's upside down. That's upside down. These are just all over the place, aren't they?
That's
Okay. So you've got Tetsuo and Tetsuo 2 Body Hammer, Tokyo Fist, which is a horror sports movie. It's kind of interesting. Bullet Ballet, Snake of June, Vital, Kotoko, and Villain. These are not all of the films he's done. He's done others like Gemini, Fires on the Plane, and a few others. But this is it's a good chunk of them. And this box set, if you like Japanese cinema, I'd recommend. It's interesting to watch this director grow as an artist, because this starts with his first film and goes all the way till his film from 2018. So it pretty much is a good way to look at his career and see what he's done.
all right. That is Tetsuo the Iron Man. Let's see what's next.
So, for a bonus here, I wanted to put in Shinya Tsukamoto's first film, The Adventures of Denshu Kozo from 1987. Everything I said about Tetsuo applies here, minus the score. There wasn't a score. This was a 16mm short film. It's about 45 minutes long. It's considered his first film. He did others, but because of rights reasons, using copyrighted music, he can't release them. So this is his first film. The Denshu Kozo translates to rod boy. So a boy who has a rod attached to him has to save the world. That's the plot. Shinya Tsukamoto. Oh, I forgot to bring this up. Tsukamoto is in 90% of his movies. He plays the villain in Tetsuo the Iron Man. He plays the villain here as well. This can be found on the Blu-ray on the box set Arrow did. It's a bonus feature on the first disc, which is Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Oh dear.
I thought I saw stuff falling, so I was like, I'm not gonna. Oh, there was stuff falling.
I heard a little bit of a avalanche there, but nothing seems to be harmed, so I think we're good.
Yeah, we're fine. So yeah, if you like Tetsuo, I'd recommend Denshu Kozo because it's in the same vein. It's just lower budget and 2 years prior.
Alrighty, next.
So next up, I've got One Cut of the Dead from 2017. Kim, have you watched this movie?
I have not.
You need to. This
Really?
is, as somebody who likes film, this is probably almost a definitive tokusatsu movie for any tokusatsu fan. The movie is cut into 3 sections. The first one's the actual movie. It is a one-shot, found footage-esque movie about a zombie. It's a zombie movie. It's not an invasion because there's only like 3, but it's about zombies and people trying to survive. The next section is about making the movie, but it's a movie about making the movie. So it's not a documentary, but you have the actual film, then you have a film about how the film was made, and then the very last portion is a film about filming the film. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think.
Okay, so basically, you watch the final product, how it was made, what led up to it being made, and how it was made. And it's all a fictional story.
Gotcha. That
Which
does sound interesting. Not very much into zombies exactly, but maybe.
Once you find out that the zombies... It's funny because they don't look too zombie-ish, but then you find out why they were zombies in the movie, and it's funny. It's a comedy as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's very I don't want to use the term meta because I think that's overused, but it is kind of meta.
Alrighty.
And then I forgot to mention this is available on Blu-ray and DVD from Shudder. The DVD's cheaper. The Blu-ray was a steelbook. It's out of print. It's hard to get. So you might want to look for the DVD if you don't mind not having the Blu-ray.
All right.
So this is the next one. This is a bonus. Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell, or also known as the Japanese Evil Dead. It's an independent low-budget horror film from the mid-90s. It's basically the Evil Dead, but Japanese. There's some spins on Kaidan, Japanese ghost stories. When I say low budget, I mean low budget. It's, have you watched any of SRS's stuff that isn't kaiju, or are you aware of what it is?
No, sadly, I have not
Okay.
explored outside the kaiju realm
Okay.
yet.
I'm trying to think of an example. Okay. Those movies that like people make and they like have no idea what they're doing, but they want to make a movie. So they do like a movie, kind of like what I do.
I was going to say like Tommy Wiseau, but yeah.
Okay, fair. This is basically that. Except it's kind of cool. It's I'm trying to just think of how to describe it. It was shot on video, so it's an analog horror. So it looks a little weird. It's very unprofessional, but that adds to the charm. It's a very charming movie if you like stuff like that. This actually recently was released to Blu-ray from Visual Vengeance. This was their first release they ever did. So I was glad to see some tokusatsu represented. Oh boy. I know I need to.
We're both tired.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I was happy to see tokusatsu represented very early in this label's career. And I mean, I recommend this if you like the analog short, kind of like unprofessional stuff. There's a lot of fun to be had with that.
I'm sure there is. Next up.
So next one, another Daiei title, directed by Gamera director Noriaki Iwasa, The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch. So this recently came out from Arrow Video on Blu-ray, and I held off on it. Eventually I bought it, I held off on watching it, and then I'd watch it for my podcast. I regret not watching this. This is a really cool gothic horror Japanese film. The title kind of throws you through a loop when you watch it, and I love that. I don't want to spoil it because it kind of was like a moment of shock for me when I finally got down to watch it. But it's low budget. It's late 60s. It was in between films. This is basically Noriaki Iwasa's answer to Ishiro Honda's Matengo. If we want to go and explain, like, Daiei wanted him to do Gamera, he wanted to do something else. They gave him this small project. He did it. He liked it a lot. That's what Honda did for Matango, and I think Snake Girl is a perfect Daiei version of that. And it's really good. It's a really good, if you like Hammer horror, perfect. This movie's perfect. It's a blend of Hammer and Tokusatsu into this nice, gooey, like, meal that's just so good.
Awesome.
And then for the bonus here, since we were doing kind of gothic horror, I wanted to do Evil of Dracula from 1974. If you know Toho films, you definitely have heard of the Bloodthirsty trilogy by Michio Yamamoto. This is the third entry in the Bloodthirsty films. This one, I think, is the best out of the three. I like it. It's very much like the Christopher Lee Dracula films, just Japanese. Um, all it's missing is Christopher Lee being Dracula, and it's it's perfect. It's like a 1-to-1 remake. Um, but I like that. It's got the look of early 70s Toho, which is like really bright colors, really kind of flamboyant and extravagant. And I think that's great. I think that works perfectly uh, for a film of this type. So I wanted to recommend this little thing here.
Awesome. All right, we have a comment from Neon Riley. I just watched the trailer to Snake Girl and I saw the same actress who played the mom in Gamera versus Giran in the trailer for Snake Girl.
Yeah. There's a lot of crossover, and there's even some stuff that they use in Snake Girl that if you're a fan of Gamera, you'll be really happy to see. I would really recommend it if you like show a Gamera.
Good to know. All right, next up we have Jellyfish Eyes.
So this film's apparently really bad. Like, it's got a horrible critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and people hate it.
Rotten Tomatoes is nothing to go by, at least not for me.
This is a fun movie. This is very fun. It's very heartwarming. The CGI is not good, but it's a fun movie. It's really heartwarming. It's basically Pokemon, but the Pokemon are named to friends. And this is in response, it's made after the Fukushima disaster. So there's a little bit of symbolism in there for that. There's a kaiju in it somewhere. And I watched it and I thought, this is really nice. This is a great like kids movie. If you're a kid and you want to watch tokusatsu, this is a great film. It's really heartwarming. It's nice. And I think it's great for kids. However, everybody hates it.
Yeah, that's because they hate fun.
Yeah, I think so. There is some man in suit action in here as well. They were actually going to do practical effects initially, but they scrapped that and did CGI instead.
Yeah. This of the movies that we've discussed so far, I think this one will be most up my alley because I'm an 8-year-old trapped in a 31-year-old body. So
You might really like Jellyfish Eyes. I think you would.
I think so. I think so too. So it's available from the Criterion Collection.
Yes, Criterion released it to Blu-ray and DVD, which is weird because everybody hates it, but Criterion released it.
I mean, usually when everyone hates something, I end up loving it. So I'm probably going to love this film.
Yeah.
Alrighty, moving on to the next slide.
So, admittedly, I have not watched this movie. However, it's a lot like Jellyfish Eyes. It's called Battle League Horumo. It follows the Pokemon train, except these are Oni. They're little Onis that college kids collect, and there's a little club of these guys, and they fight each other. And I guess, I mean, if you know what an Oni is, kind of red flags. But they fight, and somehow some sort of otherworldly power finds out they're doing this and goes to destroy Kyoto, and they gotta save Kyoto. It's available on DVD from Viz Pictures. However, it is out of print, so it's a little hard to get, which is why I haven't bought it yet. I'm one of those people. I don't spend a lot of money on my stuff. It's either I get it for MSRP or less, maybe a little more, or I don't buy it. So
Fair enough. Next up.
So this one I think is probably the most left field. This is Entomia Extinction from 1995, directed by Yoshiro Nishimura, who is known for doing a lot of really over the top and graphic effects. This was his first film. You can tell he was inspired by Tsukamoto's Iron Man a little bit, but it's mid-90s. It's a little extravagant with its colors, a lot of reds, a lot of blues. Um, and when I watched it, I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. This was a really blind buy. I bought it last minute. I bought the limited edition uh, version of this film from the company that it came out from, and I was one of the last people to get a copy. There's only 1,000 released, and I have like 972. Um, I really didn't know if I wanted to buy this or not, but I just bit the bullet and bought it, and it's pretty good. Um, I think this is his best work. I haven't watched a lot of his others, but I do own them, and they don't interest me. The bonus for this one is his later film, and it's called Tokyo Gore Police. I've seen clips. It looks interesting. I don't think it's for everybody. Definitely not. Um, it's a little hectic, a little crazy, um, and it's a little violent. Uh, I wouldn't say as violent. It's probably on par with Ryue Kitamura's Versus.
Yeah, I mean the word gore is in the title. I assume it's pretty violent.
Yeah. Um, but actually, a lot of critics like this one because it does definitely hold up to the gore title. Um, Atomic Extinction is available on Blu-ray through Error 4444. They are a brand new company. They've only released 4 films now. Atomic Extinction is their first one. Then you have The Funky Forest and The Warped Forest, 2 other tokusatsu titles, which I've got the box set right here for. And then they released a Hong Kong horror movie, and then they have announced a few other titles. One of them being Thrilling Bloody Sword. It's a Thai movie. It does have giant monsters. It's from the early 70s, and I'm so excited for when that gets released because these Error 4444 releases are really good. Um, Let me see if I can do this without making everything fall down. So this is their Blu-ray for Entomia Extinction. It's got a slip cover, and then you have the actual release. In it came with a few things. We have two little like postcards, sticker things, an Error 444 sticker, another little sticker. It comes with an alternative cover, the disc, and then it has a little booklet, which this one features a few essays. It's got credits and then 2 essays. Then it talks about like the print and a note from the team behind Error 4444. The bonus features on it are new HD scans, an introduction by the director, deleted CGI opening sequence, a short film, the audio commentary by Yoshihiro Nishimura, a look back comparing Tokyo Gore Police and Entomia Extinction, and then English subtitles. So they really outdid themselves with this one. The Funky Forest releases the same way. They've got a soundtrack CD, all the bonus features from the Viz Pictures DVDs for Funky Forest, and a ton of other newly created bonus features for their specific release. So they really go above and beyond, and if they keep it up, they might be the next Arrow Video that specializes in Japanese and Asian horror. Their name, Error 4444, the use of 4 4s is the letter 4 is very taboo in Japan, much like our number 13. But the reason they did 4 4s not only is because it's 4 4s, but it's in reference to uh, Takashi Shimizu's short film 10 Fours, um, which was the introduction to, uh, oh God, the boy, what's his name? Uh, it's the little boy from Ju-on. I know his Toshiro. Toshiro, I think it is. Um, so
Mhm.
they they love recommended. Maybe we'll see some of that in the future. As for Tokyo Gore Police, it's available on Blu-ray and DVD from Media Blasters. Um, so there's a lot of good stuff here.
Awesome. Yeah, and you were showing off like all the fun stuff that comes with the physical release there. That's not something you get on streaming services. You can't get that on
Correct.
Tubi or Netflix or wherever. So
Correct.
I think that's one of the pros of physical media. Ooh, Kaiju Noir. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey.
Andres is in the house. All right, so if we're talking about underrated tokusatsu on physical media, definitely look into Zyrum's 30th anniversary Blu-ray along with Zyrum 2 on Blu-ray.
So I didn't put Zerum on here because I thought it was too known. But those are really good. Both of those are available on Blu-ray and DVD from Media Blasters. I definitely agree with him. If you haven't seen Zerum, definitely look into it. They're directed by Keita Anamiya, who would go on to do the Garo franchise. He also worked on some Super Sentai. He also directed Kamen Rider Zeo and Kamen Rider J, uh, and a few other things. But I do have one of his films on here, so there is some Anamiya representation in this list.
Awesome, awesome. All right, let's see what's next.
Speaking of Anamiya,
How about that?
I decided to put Hikaider. Um, I think Hikaider is really well made. I think it's his best out of the films I've seen from him, which would be Cyber Ninja, uh, Hikaider, Zerum 2. Out of those, at least, I think this is his favorite. It's to me, it's the Joker uh, of tokusatsu films because Hikaider was the villain from the 1970s show Kikaider. Um, but this time he's the hero, which is very interesting. Um, but this the Blu-ray in question specifically has both the original straight to video cut, which is just a little over 60 minutes, I believe, and the director's cut, which is about 20 minutes longer. It's available on DVD and Blu-ray from Media Blasters, and I would highly recommend it. And once you finish watching Hikaider, this is what you need to do. And I mean, you need to do this. You go up to YouTube.com. In the search bar, you look up Monstrosities, a tokusatsu vlog. Make sure you look that up. You hit search. You go to the channel. It's got some cool eyes. It's red. You can't miss it. Then you're going to go to the videos tab and scroll down until you see a Hikaider video. And then you're going to click that. And you're going to sit there and watch that and bathe yourself in the well of knowledge that Matt Burkett is, and you are going to see the most amazing video essay anybody could have ever done for this film because it's so informative and so good. The only thing that detracts from the Blu-ray release is Media Blasters didn't contact him and have him work with them.
Yeah, that would have
So
been awesome. Yeah, Matt is very talented. I want to be him when I grow up. All right, we have a question from D. Duval. Is it worth hunting down the 4K release of King Kong versus Godzilla and Godzilla 54?
So, if we're talking about releases, there's only a release for King Kong versus Godzilla. 54 has not seen a 4K physical. There are ways to get them, but we can't talk about that.
You mean by sailing the high seas, perhaps?
We don't talk about Bruno.
Of course not. Okay.
But you can get the 4K release of King Kong versus Godzilla. It's good. Like the 4K releases are good. They're just not available.
Unfortunately. All right. Continuing on with what is available to some extent.
So I brought up Kikaida, and I think it's worthy for a bonus to include the Kikaida DVDs from Generations Kikaida and J&N Productions. Um, it's a follow-up to Kamen Rider. It came out in 1972 and ran until 1973. It follows a android who can transform into a human, fighting off a evil force known as Dark. It's a lot. I haven't seen Kamen Rider, but from what my friend Travis at the Kaiju Weekly podcast and Kaiju Ron Magazine has said, there are a lot alike. It follows your typical Shitaru Ishinomori and Toei tropes, but it's a great series. I own all of these. They're actually, I don't know if you can see them, but they're all right here, in the corner of my screen here.
Hold on, let me see if I can.
Yeah. Let's see. Right here. All of these are my Kikaida releases.
Very nice.
These releases specifically are really good. They all have subtitles, of course. They come with trivia questions and factoids and production details on basically every episode. It's a very thorough release. The only problem is to own all 9 volumes, it's like $120, and they're DVD. So if you want to go that route, you can. But if you want to also, there's also Kikaida 01, which is $80, Inazuman, which is like $80, and then Kamen Rider V3, which is like $150. So this company, they do good stuff, but it's hard to get them for a good price. Actually, I need to show this off because I bought it.
Oh, okay. What you got there?
We're gonna have to move these.
Please stand by, ladies and gentlemen.
I bought this. Let's see. It's Kamen Rider V3. This DVD is really expensive and should not be the how much it is. But I bought this. It just came in the other day. I'm the proud owner of 2 Kamen Rider series now. The other being Kamen Rider 01 from Shout Factory. But you got to support the Kamen Rider because we need more of it. We got Kuga out and we got Ryuki on the way, and I'm hoping for a Kamen Rider 71 Blu-ray. Just please Shout Factory.
Please, Shout Factory. Travis has a question. It's a Hawaiian-based company, right? That has the Kikaida and V3 DVDs.
Yes. So Generations Kikaida is based out in Hawaii, Honolulu to be exact. That's because in Hawaii, when these shows were airing in Japan, they actually were broadcast in Hawaii as well. And they were all really popular, Kikaida being the most popular of all of them. And so in the early 2000s, Generations Kikaida was founded, and they released Kamen Rider V3, Kikaida 01, and Inazuman. And then later on, they also did the Kikaida reboot film from 2014, all on DVD. So it's expensive, like I said, but if you want to, I'd highly recommend grabbing those, especially since, in my opinion, I think they're about to lose the rights to them. This V3 is from 2001, and if Toei's ready to start like getting more companies involved, I feel like they would pull their licenses from Generations Kikaida and give them a Shout Factory because they might be willing to pay more for less. So because they won't have the loaded bonus features this does. This has a ton. It'll just be the show with subtitles. So in my opinion, they're going to go out of print pretty soon. So I'd recommend grabbing them before it's too late.
Indeed, indeed. Andre says, I remember the Common Rider V3 was like $300 for the longest time on Amazon. Weird that it was only the Common Rider series Generation Kakaida released and seems to be out of print.
So it's still in print. I have it, thankfully. If it wasn't for the fact that it was in print, I definitely wouldn't have it. It is the only Kamen Rider show they released. I don't know why. A lot of people expected them to release more than what they did because they've only done a handful of titles.
According to Travis, Zeto and Jay are getting physical releases soon.
Yes, so Media Blasters, the ones who have done Hikaider, got the rights to Kamen Rider Shin Prologue, Kamen Rider Zeo, Kamen Rider J, Kamen Rider the First, and Kamen Rider the Next, and they are doing a Blu-ray Steelbook combo pack for the 5 films. As a bonus feature, they're also including Kamen Rider World. So those are going to be coming out. It was supposed to be around Halloween. Then I was told December, and we still haven't got anything. So I'm going to guess probably January, February. New HD transfers for all the films, possibly new dubs for all the films or reconstructions of the dubs for the films that they had dubs for. New subtitles. They're going all out on this release, so that's exciting.
That does sound exciting. I definitely need to catch up on my Kamen Rider and tokusatsu in general, really. So looking forward to that. Alrighty. Next up.
So next up, now that I'm going to start straying away from the violent stuff, I swear.
Thank you.
This one's a little violent. It's called Blade of the Immortal. It's based off the manga of the same name. It's directed by Takashi Miike from 2017. But it's violent in the same way as a samurai film. It's basically a samurai film, except the main character cannot die. He's been cursed and he can't die. The opening sequence in this reminds me of Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo so much that I was in awe when I saw it, and I was like, "There's no way they were able to do this," and they did successfully. It looks great, and I wish this adaptation got more acknowledgement because I think it's a great movie. It's got some heart. It's got great action. And I think it's one of Miike's, I think it is my favorite Miike film from the ones I've seen. It's available on Blu-ray and DVD from Magnet. It's pretty cheap. So if you want to, I'd highly recommend checking it out if you're into samurai films, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So as a bonus here, I've got another Henshin movie. This one's called Kashern from 2004. It's very stylized. It's one of the only films to be completely shot digitally, which means everybody was standing in front of a green screen. It's very stylized. The colors are really crazy. You can kind of tell by the DVD cover here. It's a live action adaptation of a anime by the same name. And like I said, it's a henshin, but it's a twist. Of course, all of your henshin shows really have kind of interesting, depressing aspects. In Kikaida, Kikaida has a love interest, but he's an android, so he can't feel love. It's very interesting, that dynamic. But Kashern is basically depressing the movie. I definitely don't recommend watching this if you're feeling down because it's a depressing film.
Oh dear.
But it's really good, and it's a really different take on the whole henshin idea than your traditional, Kamen Rider. And that's not to make a jab at Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider's great. It's just it's an interesting concept on the whole henshin genre.
That does sound interesting. I think I might check this out. It's available on DVD from DreamWorks, apparently.
Yes, yep. And it's pretty cheap to find, so you don't have to like spend an arm and a leg for it either.
Good to know. I think I'll add this to my never-ending list of things I need to watch. Awesome. Next.
So I got two more horror films. The first one here being Qui-Gon from 1965. This, I was a little scared because it's over 3 hours long. It's a very long movie. And I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna like this. I started it. And I realized I'm watching an art house film. This one's really artsy. And I'm like, I'm not gonna like this. It's gonna be like too weird or something, and I'm not gonna like it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was shocked because it's actually my friend Michael Hamilton, who does Kaiju Ramen Magazine in the Power Trip podcast. He describes Howl from Beyond the Fog, the 2019 short film, available on Blu-ray through SRS Cinema and DVD. He describes that movie as a moving painting, and I think Qui-Gon is on the same level as that. It's very beautiful. The colors are lavishing. There are moments where it's very long and quiet, and they don't do a lot. It's just the camera sits and you soak in the surroundings, and it's a wide lens. It's Toho, so they're using Toho scope. And throughout the film, I was just in awe because of how artsy it is. There's a moment in the film where it's an anthology film. In the section about the lady in the snow, there are some skies, and they're really blue or really red, depending on on the time. If it's nighttime, it's blue. If it's day, it's red. And they painted eyes as clouds in the sky. And it sounds weird, but when you see it, you're just kind of like speechless. It's really off. It's unsettling, but it works, and it looks so good. And you kind of get lost in this anthology, because of how much there is to see. You just kind of soak up everything and you get lost in it. One thing I did forget to mention is this is an adaptation of a book called Kaidan. I think it's Strange and Weird Ghost Stories of Japan. I think that's the full title. By a Westerner titled Lafcadio Hearn. Did I say titled? I meant named. Oh boy. Lafcadio Hearn moved to Japan in the I think late 1800s, early 1900s, and he went around to every region of Japan and asked about stories. And he took all the stories and he wrote them down in a book. And from that came Kaidan. And Qui-Gon is a take on those stories. And it's really interesting. And they even show Lafcadio Hearn in the movie writing the stories, which I thought was a really cool little detail.
Interesting. We have an interesting comment from Paul Caroline. Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters is something I can think of that is somewhat similar. Plus, it has an actor from Gamera too.
Huh. Interesting. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to look into that.
Interesting. So, what was that? Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Paul. All right. Let's see what else we got on this slide here.
So here we've got a little bonus here. It's called 10 Nights of Dreams. It's a independent horror anthology movie. It's got directors like Kon Ichikawa, who did Woman of the Dunes, I think is uh, his most famous movie. I think that's what it's called. Takashi Shimizu, who did Ju-on, Merbito, and then uh, Aikio Jasuji. I think I mispronounced his name. I'm not the best with Japanese names, but he is the director of Tokyo: The Last Megapolis and Tokyo: The Doomed Megapolis, both of which were Toho films in the late 80s. There's a few others he did. I can't think off the top of my head, but those two specifically, if you're fans of Toho and Tokusatsu, those are definitely some films that should be on your radar. And they're even going to be released by Media Blasters on Blu-ray here pretty soon.
Awesome, awesome. And Rex says, can't forget that Jasoi did Ultraman.
He did. That's right. That's the one I was forgetting. He did some Ultraman as well. So you've got some well-versed tokusatsu directors, and just Kon Ichikawa is an iconic director himself. This was actually the last thing he worked on before he passed away. It is a horror anthology movie by a bunch of different directors, so it doesn't line up. It's not like Qui-Gon, that was all one director. Some of it is a little unsettling. Some of it's really interesting. There's a CGI animated short, which is really interesting to watch, and there's a lot to take out of it. It's very metaphorical, and it's probably the weirdest one out of them, but it's a very warm welcome. The one that Kon Ichikawa did was really interesting. It was black and white, and it was a silent film. Which I thought was really fitting for him to do because he's this legendary Japanese director. So I thought this one was really interesting. I don't think it's amazing, but it's definitely something if you can look into. It's kind of hard. Sometimes it's expensive to get your hands on, but sometimes it's also really easy. I got my copy for like $10. It's available on DVD through Cinema Epoch. I've yet to figure out how to pronounce that.
Epoch?
Epoch?
Epoch? Epoch? I have no idea. Next.
So I got two more for you, and then I've ran out of the ones that I feel like we have time to recommend today.
Okay.
The first one here, Legend of the Eight Samurai, is one of the greatest movies I've ever watched. It's loosely based on a story called The Saga of the Eight Dogs. It's very loose. If you read the story, it's really interesting. Interesting in a weird way, not in a good way. The Legend of the Eight Samurai is like, so it's about eight samurai who are called together through magical, I think it's beans, if I remember right, in this adaptation. They're called together to save this princess. The main one is Sonichiba, who we lost this year, unfortunately. And one of them is a young Hiroki Sanada, who, if you don't know who he is, he played Rasuji in the Ring films. He played the Yakuza boss in Avengers Endgame. He is in Bullet Train, the Brad Pitt film. He was in The Wolverine, and he's in the upcoming John Wick Chapter 4. He's one of Japan's coolest actors. He is in this. This is one of his earlier appearances, and this movie's really it's in the mid 80s, and it feels like a mid 80s movie. And I love that about it. It's a love story. It's a samurai movie. but it also has a fantasy element as well, and the fantasy element feels very 80s. There's a giant centipede in it. Um, there's uh, there's some villains that are very Star Wars esque. There's a lot of stuff in here that feels a little Star Warsy, um, which I'll explain why here in a second. Uh, this film fell into public domain in the late 80s and early 90s, like Godzilla versus Megalon did. So you can get the English version pretty easily. It's available on a ton of horrible public domain print DVDs. Um, I'm sure that Mill Creek has it on one of their box sets somewhere. Um, However, the original Japanese version is available on DVD through BCI Entertainment, who also did Iron King, Super Robot, Red Baron, and Ultraman. However, it is out of print, but you can still get it for a pretty decent price. It's through the Sonny Chiba collection. They also released GI Samurai, Ninja Wars, and a few other Chiba titles. So if you like what they did for Legend of the Eight Samurai, there's also a plethora of other films. Not so much tokusatsu, but other films nonetheless.
Awesome. All right. We have a question from Doomzilla. Cinema Epoch, however you pronounce that word. Are they trustworthy?
So I think they are. They kind of remind me of like SRS Cinema, where it's like they're pretty low budget that it's hard to determine whether or not they're official or not. However, their titles are official. They've done Psycho Shark, which was Jaws in Japan, is what it's alternatively titled as. They've done 10 Nights of Dreams, Demi King the Sea Monster, which is a horrible kaiju movie. I do not recommend. They did a Power Rangers parody. I don't think I can say the title or talk about it here, but they did a Power Rangers parody. We'll just say that. And they've done a few other titles, at least tokusatsu wise. I trust them. They're just not very exciting. They're kind of bland. They're dull. But I mean, nobody else is releasing them, so I'll take whatever I can get.
Fair enough. All righty, moving on.
So the last one here, I brought up how it feels very Star Warsy. This is why. Kenji Fukasaku, the director of Legend of the Eight Samurai, a few years prior did Message from Space from 1978. It's the same story. It's the exact same story, but this one's more Star Warsy than the one he later did. I mean, look at that cover. It's Star Wars. It's Japanese Star Wars. This came out in 1978, a year after Star Wars came out. Toei produced this. Legend of the Eight Samurai was Katakawa. So they were a little late with this one because Toho produced War in Space the same year. Hang on, my train of thought just died. Toho produced War in Space the same year that Star Wars came out. Message from Space came out a year later. Like I said, it's the same story except it's Star Wars. Not to be mistaken for Warning from Space, the 1956 Daiei film. Very different, not the same at all. Message from Space, however, it's fun. I think it's a little boring, but it is fun. It's available on a limited edition Blu-ray from Shout Factory that's very hard to get for a good price. And DVD, which is starting to go up in price because it's out of print. But if you know where to look, you might be able to find a decent copy for about $20, $25.
Awesome. All right. And that concludes this wonderful presentation that you put together. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm just happy we could talk about this.
Yeah, me too. Any closing thoughts before we head out of here?
Um, so there is 20 tokusatsu movies. A lot of those were horror, a lot of those were violent. Um, but there's still like 300 other titles that have been released in the United States. And I have like a handful of them just right here. This is just a handful. If I was in my room, we couldn't fit all of them. It'd be a tower. We'd have a tower of physical media. Um, and we're only getting more. Uh, recently we had, let's see, this is a recent release. Haruko the Goblin. This is another Shinya Tsukamoto film. Mondo Macabaro released this one. They also did a few Toei titles called Haunted Turkish Bathhouse and House of Terror. Um, late 60s, early 70s Japanese horror. But we've got companies like that doing stuff. SRS Cinema already has one slated for next year in February, I believe. SRS Cinema has been releasing stuff. Tokusatsu is never ending. And there's more than what I've shown. There's more than what's available in the States. There is so much out there in the world. And we're just scratching the top of it. There's so much more to tokusatsu than your. I'm gonna try and do this without.
Yeah. Kaiju Noir says, thanks for showing the fan that there's far more to tokusatsu. I can't read than just Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman, etc. Yes,
Exactly.
I think it is very important to get that out there. I need to expand my own horizons, and I know there's a bunch of stuff out there. I just need to actually watch it, And now I have, a way to get them, and now I know where to get these things. So thank you very much, Elijah.
Yeah, and he got it perfect. There's so much, and as somebody who started off with Godzilla, then Gamera, then Ultraman, and then I got this, I'm so happy that I expanded my horizons. And I guarantee anybody who expands their horizons as well will be so happy with the results because there is so much out there. And for somebody who loves film, it's a movie, it's a TV show. Watch it. It's good. Take what you can get from it and enjoy it and share that love because that's the end goal for some people. For me, it's sharing this stuff. That's why on my podcast this coming year, we have only like half a dozen Godzilla titles. And the rest is I'm not spoiling anything because this is not our lineup. It's like Tetsujin 28, 10 Nights of Dreams, Attack of the Super Monsters, Stray Dogs, Yakuza Apocalypse. I'm not saying those are the titles, but stuff like that. It's like, what is this? What is this? Why is this tokusatsu? What's important about this? And that's the best thing about this is being able to share that stuff. So I'm happy that I could at least do that a little bit here with only 20 or so titles, but it's better than nothing.
That is better than nothing. Taco-satsu is my favorite genre. And taco-satsu makes me hungry. Travis, I might have to commission you to make me some art based on that taco-satsu. I love that. I love that very much.
Let's taco everything. Let's get what's a pun for Kamen Rider as a taco?
Yeah, we'll probably think of something really witty after we go off the air.
Kamen Rider Supreme?
Oh, good Lord. Let's wrap it up before we get off the rails here. All righty. Thank you again so much for this wonderful presentation. Before we head out of here, why don't you plug your stuff? What you got going on?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, it's Elijah. You can read that right there. You can find me on Twitter at ET13 Productions. on Instagram at ET13 Productions or on YouTube at ET13 Productions. I don't post a whole lot. If you want to follow my personals, if you want to look for those, you can. I'm not going to tell you, but I'm not going to complain if you do or don't. However, I do post frequently on my podcast, Kaiju Conversation. You can find on any podcasting platform. You can find us on Twitter and on Instagram at KAIJU_CONVERS. You can like us on Facebook or join our Discord server, Kaiju Conversation. A lot of good people there talking about a ton of tokusatsu. I know topic recently has been Troll. That new movie that Netflix just released. Hopefully that gets a physical media release so we can wave that one around here. I got the new Troll movie, right? Right.
Alrighty, well, thank you again so much for coming on to my show. It's been a pleasure. And to you watching at home, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me and my fantastic guests. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this stream/video if you had a good time here tonight. And be sure to tune in next week for another edition of Chill with Kaiju Kim. And be sure to tune in 2 weeks from tonight for the Toys for Tots charity stream. It's going to be a good time, and it's going to be my last stream of the year. Then I'm going to go on a hiatus. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.